For picks, props, and futures for tonight's action. Bettor Sports Betting wants to know what picks you're playing tonight. Tell us in the live chat on YouTube, Twitter, and the Bettor Sports Network app. This is Bettor Sports Betting with Fantasy Alarm's Dan Servodidio.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back in here to the Bettor Sports Betting Show on Bettor Sports Network and Fantasy Alarm. Joined today, as most Tuesdays, with Jon Impemba. How you doing, John?
Dan, I'm doing pretty good. Happy to be back here on the Bettor Sports Betting Show. I got a little weight on my shoulders. Last two appearances here, I've gotten the home run call right. So we're looking to keep the streak alive, make it 3 in a row.
Pressure's mounting here.
Pressure's on, big time, yeah.
Well, I'm going to definitely follow you then, because I have had zero success with my home run calls. I could do all the prep and all the stats, and it just seems like, oh, this guy's going to go 0 for 4 tonight. That's what's going to happen. So maybe I'll just back you tonight. But yeah, we will have our daily dingers, our home run calls to wrap up today's show. But plenty of MLB picks for you, some best bets, player props, all of that. Me and John are definitely glued into tonight's full slate. We got a huge slate, as Tuesday nights usually are, baseball-wise. So we'll have plenty of picks there. And then we'll be talking a little bit of NBA. You know, yesterday's show, me and Howard broke down some NBA draft odds and props for, the number 2 pick, the number 3 pick, that kind of thing. But we'll be diving into some more of that, because I got John on the show, and he's glued into NBA. And we have some NBA trade rumors and stuff to discuss that could be impacting Thursday's first-round draft picks. So definitely going to get his take on some of those things and some, odds shifting in the last 24 hours on some of these first round picks, number 2 pick, that kind of thing. So we'll get John's take on that. By the way, if you haven't already, before we get to some picks, gotta, give a shout out and promote our fantasy football draft guide at Fantasy Alarm. If you haven't already, go check it out right now. You can get it for $26.99, but you can also get it for free if you have the All Pro subscription at Fantasy Alarm, which you can get a free 7-day free trial right now for the Fantasy Alarm All Pro subscription there. So definitely check the Fantasy Football Draft Guide out. We had the running back tier rankings up today from Andrew Cooper. Yesterday was the quarterback rankings, and every day we're pumping out new additions to this draft guide to help you prep for the start of NFL season. It's right around the corner. This summer's going to fly by. John's going to be going on his honeymoon. He's going to come back, and it's going to be grinding towards the NFL draft.
It was a planned time frame for this honeymoon. I knew.
Yeah, there you go.
As soon as I'm back, we're right first week of July, and it is headstrong into fantasy football season, which for some started 3 months ago with best ball. So, I mean, we're talking about not only just, the best ball season kicking off here. Dynasty leagues have been going on for a while. We've been doing round-the-clock football coverage here with Andrew Cooper, Britt Flynn, Kev Tompkins, a lightning round crew. So there hasn't been any layoff of content, but now that the draft guide is here, it's serious, right? People are going to start getting their home leagues going. Their office leagues are starting to go. It's going to be a wild time over the next couple of months getting everything in order for everybody to dominate their drafts for sure.
Yeah, and you got to pay attention now to all the roster moves and stuff. We still got names like Dalvin Cook and DeAndre Hopkins still out there in free agency, who could be obviously changing the fantasy football landscape drastically wherever they land. So going to be interesting to see which teams they sign with. But yeah, plenty of stuff every day coming out from Fantasy Alarm's draft guide there, Fantasy Football Draft Guide. So definitely check it out. Let's get to our MLB picks tonight and our best bets. We each have our best picks for tonight that we're most sure of. So what do you got for us first here for your best bet?
Yeah, listen, I got Marcus Stroman plus 165 to get the win here tonight. You always get plus odds on pitcher wins. Stroman's picked up a win in 6 of his last 7 starts. He's got a win in 3 straight. He's got 8 wins on the season. He's going up against a Pittsburgh Pirates team over the last 2 weeks, pretty much last or second to last in every offensive category against right-handed pitching. Stroman just faced Pittsburgh, got a win in that game here. It just feels like a great matchup here for him and the Cubs. So getting, almost 2 to 1 plus 165 on him to come out with the W here tonight. I liked those odds, and that's my favorite play of the day.
Yeah, I like that. He was your cover for the Prize Picks video as well today, too,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, so I'm a little. I'm in on it. I'm all in on Stroman here, but they set his prize picks point total at 29.5 for tonight, which is incredibly low. He's gone over that in 12 of his 15 starts on the year. He's gone over it in like 6 of his last 7. It doesn't really make sense why it's so low. We've talked about this before. Sometimes Vegas knows, right? So you're looking at this total, you're like, really no. He's averaging 44 fantasy points on prize picks over his last 5 starts. They set him at 29.5 today. He is it was minus 150 on the under 2.5 earned runs allowed, but it was over 5.5 hits was minus 130, and over 1.5 walks was minus 195. So DraftKings Sportsbook thinks he's going to be giving up 6 hits, walk 2 guys, but give up less than 2 runs. Like, the numbers there are a little murky for me. And then you saw the low fantasy point total, and it could be a trap play, but all the numbers, you're going to get the 165 there just on a guy that's minus 150 to give up 2 runs. I mean, or less. I just felt like that was too good of a play. So I went over the fantasy score on prize picks today, 29.5. And I'm going plus 165 on him to get the win tonight as well.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I'm looking on DraftKings right now. He's, the Cubs are minus 130 to win the game on the money line, which is interesting when then you shift over to look at Stroman's odds to get a win. So, it doesn't totally line up there. Obviously, they could be tied, and he doesn't get the win, but they still win.
Oviedo's not really a great pitcher, right? So I mean, like, but Chicago against righties, they have some guys that can hit for power, but they're generally better against lefties. There's some minutia in there, and it's on the road too. Chicago being on the road here maybe leans a little bit into that line as well. But Stroman's been such nails of late, and Pittsburgh's been so bad against righties. It felt like a bet I'm willing to take the play on here at plus 165.
Sweet, yeah. My best bet for tonight is the Blue Jays team total over 3.5. Minus 130 on MGM, but similar odds on DraftKings or FanDuel. Facing Yuri Perez for the Marlins, he's been really impressive in his rookie season, but I just think he's due for some negative regression coming up. 180 ERA this season, but his 391 FIP and 379 expected ERA are just a little too glaring for me, and a 92% left on base rate, just kind of an unsustainable thing. And I think it's coming here against Blue Jays offense that's the top 10 offense against right-handed pitching overall this season, and they don't strike out a ton. I think they're going to make Perez work for it here. The Jays are more league average against righties over the past 2 weeks and have been up and down lately, but I just think there's a bounce back here, after getting shut out yesterday by the Marlins staff. And I think today against Perez, just having some glaring, 227 BABIP for Perez as well. A little worrisome to kind of sustain that. So I think Perez could have some issues. And the other thing, when you look at Perez's game logs, from this season, he's faced some, below average, subpar offenses like the A's, the White Sox, the Nats, Mariners. But Toronto is probably his toughest test yet this year, even though they have been up and down. So I'll back the Jays team total here. I looked at their, the money line and all that, but I just kind of backing them, just the offense just having success, because you say Kikuchi's on the other side, and I have no idea what we're getting from him.
Yeah, I don't think much, honestly, from Yusei there. But listen, Toronto's been one of the more frustrating teams all season long to really play in DFS. They had that one game where they scored 20 runs, but then they went on like a 10-game stretch where they scored 3 or fewer in like 7 of those 10. So they have the name value for talent-wise, but those guys, Vlad Guerrero is not paying off his draft stock right now where he was drafted. Bichette's looked good, but Stringer's been wishy-washy. Varsho has the counting stats, but he's been inconsistent. They just lost Kirk to the IL. Definitely an offense that should be better than it is. And maybe, like you said, some of those regression stats for Yuri Perez come shining through here tonight, and Toronto gets the over.
Yeah, maybe Perez is just going to be a stud all season, but I feel like he's going to run into 1 or 2, below average outings.
There are levels to the game, they say. You got to get over the hump here.
Exactly. But the Blue Jays. Chapman started out hot. Now he's cooled off a little bit for the Jays. So, yeah, you're right about that. Go check out the MLB Best Bets article, by the way, over on Fantasy Alarm to get some more picks, because it's not just me and John giving out these picks. Today's Best Bets article, I think was Howard up on it.
Yeah,
Oh, it was Wags
had
again today? Okay,
yeah,
yeah.
Howard's on the MLB DFS playbook today. So Josh Wagner has his best bets out there.
Yeah. And he might have a pick that just kind of contradicts me there. I'm looking at it now. So definitely check that out, and you can see who you can side with. But yeah, definitely check his article there. And it's with the All Pro subscription. So yeah, use promo code ALARM50 for 50% off your first 6 months, and you can get the draft guide if you get that All Pro subscription. So
7-day free trial, access to the Discord, access to everything on site, and now the draft guide, all for free for 7 days. And then if you use that promo code, just $19.98 a month for 6 months. There's no better deal in the entire fantasy industry, in my opinion, than getting all of that, what we do, access to us for $20 a month for 6 months. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah. And if you're winning, a couple DFS slates or a best bet or two, then you're making that back easily. So you'll be good to go. Let's get to some more baseball picks for tonight's slate. What else you got here, John?
Yeah, listen, I think for me, kind of looking it over, Spencer Steer, 1.5 hits, runs, and RBIs is just kind of a lock and load play that we've been running now. It feels like every show that we're on together. The Reds are on this like ridiculous streak right now. They got Joey Votto back yesterday. He homered, and just another good matchup here tonight, going up against the Rockies in Cincinnati's home ballpark. Steer's got power. He hits in the middle of their lineup. There's guys in front of him that get on base. So yeah, it just feels like another great spot for him to hit the over 1.5 hits, runs, and RBIs.
Yeah, listen, I've been saying this almost every show because it's hitting is the Reds team total over is just keeps cashing. I don't always give it out on this show, but it's just something I kind of until it stops hitting because it's been hitting almost every day. I'm gonna keep rolling it out, and yeah, the guys like Steer, Matt McClain, obviously De La Cruz, but now we got we got to look at some Joey Votto hits, runs, and RBIs props going forward because maybe he's just gonna come out. Feeling this youthful environment in Cincy and just be kind of re-energized there. So
they're throwing Noah Davis out there today. Gave up 7 runs in 2 innings his last time out there against Arizona. So I mean, could be another blow up spot. So give me the Reds here tonight. And like you mentioned, but Steer for me, just in a great spot to continue to contribute. He's hitting both lefties and righties too. He's not one of those guys that's like very split dominant. He puts them on the field. He's getting hits. He's driving in guys. It's been great for them.
Yeah, I like that. Well, I'll stick in that game and look on the other side. And I'm looking at Ben Lively, the starter for Cincinnati here, over his strikeouts, over 5.5 strikeouts here. Listen, he's averaging 6.5 strikeouts this per start this season. He's got 39 Ks over 6 starts since moving into the rotation there for Cincy. And he's over 5.5 strikeouts in 4 of his 6 starts. Struck out 4 last start, but I think a bounce back's coming here against the Rockies at home. The Rockies have a 26% strikeout rate against right-handed pitching this year, or over the past 2 weeks, which is 3rd highest in the MLB. And it's about 25% overall this year against righties, and not one of the worst marks in the majors. Over the past week, the Rockies are striking out at 30% clip against righties. And they're one of the worst road offenses all year. We've been saying that for a while. And just a spot to target when they're on the road away from Coors. So I think Lively here, his strikeouts, it used to be at 4.5 like a couple starts ago, and now it's moving up to 5.5 here. But I still like the over because the Reds are giving him a long leash. They're letting him go about 100 pitches and pitch into the 6th, 7th innings most starts. So I think here's a spot where he can get to over 5.5 strikeouts.
Yeah, I like it. Played him a couple days ago. Not his 4 strikeout game, but the game before that when it was 4.5. Like you mentioned, we got the over there. Definitely a good spot for him tonight against Colorado. Just a punching bag that we've gone after a lot this season in most matchups here. And it really goes to show you, like, it doesn't even really matter the quality of pitcher. You just kind of like, this feels like a dart throw, but you know what? It's Colorado. Let's just go after him. So.
Yeah, Lively's not been terrible either this year for Cincinnati. So his strikeouts, it was at 4 to 5, 4.5, and I always looked at that over to get to that 5. But even at 5.5 here, I like the over. So,
yep, agree.
All right, what else you got here?
Yeah, going Dylan Cease under 17.5 outs at -125 tonight over at DraftKings Sportsbook. Cease has again just not been the same pitcher this year as he was last year. He's actually only hit over 17.5 outs in 6 of his 15 starts this year. He's gone under this total in 3 of his last 4 starts. And now he's running up against the Rangers. They're a top 5 offense in nearly every category against right-handed pitching, WOBA, ISO, slugging percentage, and batting average. It just doesn't feel like this would be a spot where Cease is going to shut down this team. He gets high pitch counts because he's kind of wild. He strikes out a lot of guys, and that results in a high pitch count. He also walks a lot of guys, which helps result in a high pitch count. So this could be a spot where he gets through 5 innings, but he's at 105 pitches by now. If he even makes it that far and doesn't get the 6 full that he needs to hit the over here. So we're going to go Dylan for the 17.5 outs.
Yeah, I like that call. It's interesting to see, Cease against the Rangers here. And obviously Cease, pitching a little bit better, but the Rangers are just a behemoth. I would any pitcher you could kind of go under on their props when they're facing the Rangers, it seems these days.
He's pitched better, but he burns through his pitches because he's so inconsistent with the strike zone that he just can't pitch deep into games this year. So
yeah, I'll go fade another top pitcher here. I'll go Clayton Kershaw over his walks prop, over 1.5 walks at minus 115 on DraftKings. This is an interesting place because obviously it's Kershaw. We know how good he is, but on the road, he's a little bit worse. We know that from past years, but it's definitely true this year. And especially with his walks, he's had an issue walking batters this year. His 6.3% walk rate are his highest since 2012, and he's got 21 walks given out over 14 starts this season, over 1.5 walks allowed in 4 of his last 5 starts. And over 1.5 walks, by the way, in 6 of 8 road starts this season. So, and in those all over those outings, he's averaging over 2 walks per road start this year. Mm-hmm. And now he's got to face the Angels on the road here. The Angels are dangerous offense lately. They're a lot tougher than they were at the beginning of the year. They're Ohtani's on fire, but their whole lineup all over is playing a lot better. And over the past 2 weeks, they have a 12% walk rate against left-handed pitchers for the 3rd best mark in the majors. So this is a tough spot for Kershaw. I mean, maybe he has success limiting runs overall, but I think he's going to give out over, at least 2 walks here.
Yeah, I like that one. Again, you're talking about hasn't been as dominant of late. He's had some slip ups here. So I don't mind that. I don't generally love going obviously against elite pitchers like that. But as you mentioned here on the road, numbers a little bit worse. And he hasn't been the Cy Young guy that he's been over years past. So I don't mind that one. A guy that could be in contention for the Cy Young this year, Nathan Eovaldi. I'm going over 18.5 outs on him. This line's kind of moved around. Very early this morning when I looked at it, it was actually at plus odds, but now it's sitting at minus 110. When I kind of entered into our sheet, he's at minus 105. So people saw it and they started hitting it here. The White Sox on the year, one of the worst teams in baseball against right-handed pitching. They're 29th in WOBA at 289. They have just a 229 team average against right-handed pitching, near 23% strikeout rate against right-handed pitching. I know they've gotten some guys back a little bit healthier, Eloy and Luis Robert, and that's helped them get a little bit better, but not really much better. They're 25th in WOBA the last 2 weeks, just a 205 batting average. What they're doing is hitting for power. They have a 199 ISO against right-handed pitching there. That's the 5th highest in baseball, but it's basically an all or nothing team right now for them. They're either hitting for power or they're not hitting at all. They have a 26% strikeout rate against right-handed pitching. And then you want to look at Nathan Eovaldi. He's maybe been the workhorse of the league. Last year we looked at Alcantara and all the late, the deep games and complete games that he was throwing. Well, that's been Nathan Eovaldi this year. He's gone over this total more than a handful of times on the season. He had a couple of complete games. He had another New York complete game here. So we only need 6 1/3 innings for him to get over this total here. So he's done that in 2 straight starts. He's done that in 5, 6, 7 of his last 8, 7 of his last 9 starts he's gone over. So give me the Nathan Eovaldi over 18.5 outs against the White Sox tonight.
Okay. So you like Eovaldi's over outs prop and you like Cease's under outs prop in that same matchup. Yeah. Do you like the Rangers, the money line's minus 150, maybe a little pricey?
Might as well just do a same game parlay at this point, right? and just hit it up because I like Seager obviously tonight. So yeah, maybe DraftKings gave us a boost on our same game parlays tonight. Maybe I'll have to go take a peek and see what we got going on there for this game. Because that is, I didn't even realize put those two together at the time, but yeah, that's where I'm at.
Yeah, so you could go with and actually when you were talking about Cease there, it was minus 140 on the money line for the Rangers, and now it's up to minus 150. So if you want that, grab it now, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting there. My next pick here is the Mariners money line, minus 105 on DraftKings. I got it at. George Kirby having a strong season for the Mariners, 3.24 ERA, and his FIP's even lower at 3.11. His command especially has been nice to see this year. 1.9% walk rate, which maybe isn't totally sustainable, but last year he's at 4.1% walk rate and among the top 5% of qualified starters there. Facing a Yankees offense just really limping right now with Judge out, and kind of that absence seems to be growing larger by the day. The Yankees had the worst offense against right-handed pitching over the past 2 weeks with a 268 WOBA and 196 batting average, both dead last in the league against righties. And the Yanks this season overall just have been a below-average offense against right-handed pitching, but lately with Judge out, it's just really glaring. And Kirby, he tossed 8 shutout innings against the Yankees a few weeks ago. I wouldn't be surprised to see a similar type of outing here. Maybe he's not throwing a shutout performance, but allowing just maybe a run or two. So I think he's going to be strong for the Mariners, even on the road. And then the other side, it's Garrett Cole, which it's a tough matchup, obviously, but he's got some weird, advanced metrics this season that have me a little worried. Just not as dominant every outing. He's got 2.75 ERA, which is solid, but a 4.03 expected ERA and a 3.50 FIP. So a little worrisome there. And when you look at some of the other stats, his K rate is way down. His walk rate's a little higher. His expected batting average, the worst it's been in about 5 years. All these weird stats that just kind of have you noticing that Cole, and if the eye test has worked at times too, because he's just every start he's not as dominant as he used to be. Every start, he's better at home, yes, but I think the Mariners are kind of just good enough. They're not great offense, but just good enough to give Kirby a little bit of run support here. So I like the Mariners money line.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good one here. Again, you kind of always get a little worried. Seattle's offense hasn't been great, like you mentioned. Garrett Cole could be in a really good spot here, but getting Kirby shutting down that line again. I was stunned when I was looking over at Fangraphs to see the Yankees are dead last in WOBA against righties. So Aaron Judge not being in that lineup changes just so much for that team here. So I like that one.
Their WOBA and their batting average is way down, and their strikeouts have just skyrocketed. The offense. I know they got Harrison Bader back, right, from the IL, I think today, but that's like a huge difference maker. So
no, they got Donaldson back the other day as well, but again, not a guy that really hits righties. So that offense is interesting.
Yeah.
My last pick here, just kind of a staple. Whenever I'm on this show, we're going Jake McCarthy over half a stolen base at plus 150 here. Colin Ray is a guy you can run on. He's allowed 8 stolen bases on the year. That's one of the higher numbers in all of baseball. He's no Noah Syndergaard, who's allowed 20 stolen bases on the year, but 8 stolen bases is like a top 5 or bottom 5, however you want to look at it, for the number there for pitchers. So he's also struggled against lefties. So McCarthy's hitting 9th again today. If he gets on base against a guy that's allowing stolen bases, he's apt to go. We can't really go Yuri Perez anymore. He's minus 150 for a stolen base at Yuri Perez. So the days of using Yuri Perez are long gone here. So let's take the plus 150 on Jake McCarthy. It was big sad the other night. I took the over on his stolen base with him and Carroll in a parlay. And he came up against Bieber and he homered instead. They needed him to get on and steal a second. Instead, he ends up hitting the home run on his last at bat that kind of cost me the play. But I'll run right back to it plus 150.
Yeah, well, if he didn't last game, then he's bound to steal base tonight.
And again, this is an elite stolen base spot if you're just kind of looking at the numbers there. So 8 doesn't seem like a lot of stolen bases allowed, but it kind of is a lot of 8 and 11 starts. So almost a stolen base per start for Colin Ray here. So if you're looking to sprinkle some money tonight, Corbin Carroll stolen bases, Perdomo stolen base, Ketel Marte stolen base. Somebody in Arizona tonight is swiping second with Colin Ray on the mound.
Yeah, and he hasn't faced, a Diamondbacks offense, right? That is going to be stealing bags whenever they get on.
They haven't been shut out yet this year either, the Diamondbacks, which is an interesting stat. Only team in baseball not to be shut out this year. So men will be on base, they will score runs, and they will be running.
By the way, I think earlier you're saying just a slip of the tongue, Yuri Perez for the stolen bases. But it's Esteury Ruiz. Yeah.
Ruiz. There we go. Yeah.
Well, Yuri Perez is the guy I'm fading for the Marlins, but yeah.
right.
Ruiz, but Ruiz. I was just looking at him because I was expecting either him or McCarthy stolen base prop from you tonight.
Yeah, Esteury Ruiz is minus 150 now. We can't do it anymore. So.
I mean, that's crazy. That is crazy. That is odds are
minus 150 to steal a base. So. If you're going to bet him to steal a base, you might as well bet him to get a hit or something like that, right? Like, kind of parlay.
You might as well just bet him to go under, under the stolen base.
Probably that's true too. Yeah.
All right, my last pick before we get to some NBA talk and some home run calls. I'm going with the Padres Giants over 8.5. We got Anthony DeSclafani against Seth Lugo here to start. DeSclafani's been shaky lately. 9 ERA over his last 3 starts through June, and 5 earned runs in 2 of those last 3. His ERA now shot up to 4.31 after being, getting off to a solid start earlier this year. And the Padres offense been a lot better lately with Tatis, Machado, Soto all healthy and back in there and hitting a lot better. And San Diego's top 10 offense against right-handed pitching over the past 2 weeks. So I think this is a spot DeSclafani could run into some issues. And the other side, it's Seth Lugo, first game back from injury tonight. But, after missing a month, and I think it's just a tough matchup to jump right back into. The Giants are a top 5 offense against right-handed pitching this season. And over the past week and 2 weeks, they're on fire. They've scored 7 or more runs in 6 straight games and 7 in our last 8 games. I know they'll cool down at some point, but I don't think it's here at home. I think they're going to keep it going. They're playing with a lot of confidence right now. And against righties, that's been a spot for this Giants offense to really light pitchers up. So like the over here, 8.5.
Doesn't really matter who's in the Giants lineup because they've had guys in and out with injuries all year. They've just been hammering righties this whole season.
Right?
So, yeah, I'm with you on that one 100%. And they have Matos now hitting 6th in their lineup. They called him up, and he's been really good in a couple of games. Is kind of inserting himself in there since Haniger went down. So, yeah, I'll ride that one for sure with you.
Yeah, last night it was interesting. I took their over, actually on the show, I took their over team total. I think it was 3.5, and they were kind of getting shut down for the most part by Waka, who I thought would have, regression there, but he did his thing. And then late, the Giants kind of came through, tied it up at 4, and then Yastrzemski hit that walk-off home run like late last night to get the over there. But yeah, it was their offense is just like seems that they're just clicking right now, and they're right in the middle of the wild card hunt. Like they're feeling it.
Yeah, they had a lot of guys that beginning of the year they always had righties, but a lot of guys that had always profiled better against lefties. They started the year slow against lefties, but now they're starting to pick it up, and they're really just hitting everybody at this point. So so and you don't generally expect that from a Giants offense. For so long, they were pitching because of that ballpark here that they play in, and now those bats are starting to come around from guys that aren't really typically household names either. Thairo Estrada, Conforto was out of baseball all season long last year. He's coming up big for them, so they're getting some nice performances out of guys.
Yeah. Before we get to some NBA talk here, just want to remind you guys, David Barnett and Pat Perry deliver informative and entertaining golf talk, including interviews with PGA Tour and live golf players and caddies. You can have more fun with golf and win daily fantasy sports and betting with the Tour Junkies show here on Bettor Sports Network. We had David Barnett on last week at the U.S. Open. He gave us a couple winners, a couple props that cashed. So definitely listen to them. They're giving you guys, they're fully glued into to the golf scene there. And we got Drew Phelps over at Fantasy Alarm, who's giving you PGA DFS playbooks and the PGA DFS previews articles that are free up on Fantasy Alarm right now. So you can check that out as well. Some NBA talk here. I just wanted to run things by you because you can see here, we got Bradley Beal going to Phoenix. I don't think the trade is official, but it looks like it's going to happen here. Chris Paul is moving to some other team here. But what are your kind of like instant reactions to this trade here? Beal going to Phoenix.
Well, I guess I would assume Beal's going to play point on that team. I guess like he played some point guard for Washington at times, I mean, it's positionless basketball now in the NBA anyways, but it doesn't, I don't know who would then play point guard for them. I don't know.
Him and Devin Booker could switch off and on, maybe.
Yeah, like they could. He had point Booker for a while last year when Paul was down. I mean, they'll probably bring somebody in, but then you're kind of shifting guys out of position there. They'll be small if they decide to go a 3-guard, 2 forward sort of offensive rotation there, having to play Booker at the 3, I would guess, if they wanted to actually have like Campaign be their actual point guard in that offense. I mean, listen, obviously there's elite scoring there, but I don't think like Chris Paul was their problem for getting over the hump. Getting Bradley Beal will add certainly another true scorer to that offense. But I don't know if that's enough to compete in the West yet. I mean, still got to deal with the Warriors, still going to have to go through the Nuggets there on that team. So, sure, they're probably marginally better, but I don't really consider Bradley Beal to be the difference maker on that team personally.
Yeah, and they still have DeAndre Ayton, who we all thought might be traded by now.
He still may be. Some rumors flying around there today.
Okay.
That he could be a guy that they're looking to get out from under because the money that he's owed. The problem is trying to find a team that's willing to take on that money, and they need to find multiple partners. We could be looking at 3 or 4 team trades here where Ayton gets shipped. My biggest issue was when they traded for Durant, they got rid of a lot of their depth, and that team just became very shallow come playoff time. I know teams use shortened rotations, but they could have used someone like Mikal Bridges on that roster still to play wing defense. Instead, they traded him away. They didn't really have enough horses there, I don't think, to compete with some of the stronger teams if they didn't get the elite performances out of Booker and Durant to really carry them through. Again, Beal can certainly now help their scoring. They're going to be a 3-headed monster, but I wouldn't consider them a favorite to win the West, truthfully. So, again, unless they can make some moves to get better depth on that team, I'm still a little skeptical.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see where Chris Paul lands because there's been some rumors that he's not going to stay in Washington.
Yeah, he'll get bought out probably.
Yeah, he'll get bought out. Maybe the Clippers have been mentioned there, so that'll be interesting because he's older, obviously, and he's got some injuries in the recent years, but he's still a very good point guard.
He wasn't their problem, so I don't, I don't know what the reasoning for wanting to get out from underneath him was, other than maybe they just felt like they needed another guy that can score to compete, with those teams in the West, and Paul is definitely maybe the last of your traditional guards in the league here.
Yeah.
I would love him in Boston just as a selfish Celtics fan, getting a true point guard to run that offense and feed Brown and Tatum, but it seems probably unlikely he lands up in here. But the Celtics are another team rumored to maybe be in on some trades ahead of the Thursday draft. So we'll see what happens there. Could be a very exciting night in the NBA.
Yeah, Jaylen Brown is one of the names, right, that the Celtics could be looking at. I mean, I know like Marcus Smart's a name they could moving on from. Derek White's another guy.
Yeah, so Malcolm Brogdon's been the big one. Malcolm Brogdon too. Are looking to move on from his contract. Unfortunate the way it ended for him. I mean, had he been healthy for the Celtics, maybe they make it through the Eastern Conference Finals, but he tore that ligament in his elbow in game 1 and just couldn't play. He was inactive for the final 2 games of that series. 6th man of the year, right? They got him to be that guy off the bench to help them when some of the other shooters went cold. And I mean, man got hurt, right? Nothing you can really do about it, but they're looking maybe to move out from his contract. Grant Williams is another guy that's looking where he could get a side and trade candidate. Peyton Pritchard is a guy that the Celtics are dangling out, seeing if any teams are interested to kind of move on from him. I know there are teams that kind of value Pritchard maybe as the first guard off the bench because he's shown some decent scoring potential. Jalen Williams is someone that's going to get a max contract. You get a max contract and a sign and trade. Maybe we'll see. I know Atlanta's looking to shed some salary. They're a team that's being rumored Boston, Atlanta, and a third team could be in the mix to move some pieces around ahead of the NBA draft on Thursday. So, all of this will come to a head in the next couple of days.
Yeah. And you mentioned on Thursday with the NBA draft first round, I could see some trades happening on draft night, maybe even during the draft. And one of the big names we got to watch is Damian Lillard, right? I mean, whether he's going to stay put and they make a move with that number 3 pick to get someone else to Portland, or they use, Lillard to trade to someone else, maybe packaged with a 3 pick, who knows? But that, the Trailblazers at 3 are a very interesting spot, because when you look at the NBA draft and it's, Scoot Henderson or Brandon Miller is there at 3 for some team, maybe looking to move up and snag whoever falls there. It's just really interesting because, obviously Lillard is the other factor here, but just whoever might be moving into that 3 spot, or if the Trailblazers are standing pat and shipping out Lillard or packaging the pick, who knows?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there was obviously a lot of conflicting reports over the last handful of days. Someone from Lillard's camp obviously speaking out like, hey, I want to be here for the rebuild. I want to be the reason this team gets back to the glory. I want to be the reason this team gets back to the, the Western Conference playoffs, right? And you heard the rumors that, the Pelicans were floating out Zion Williamson for maybe the number 3 pick, and that the Blazers actually wanted Ingram, but the Pelicans aren't looking to move on for Brandon Ingram. They're looking for someone to take on Zion because he's become quite a headache, not only just for the things that are going on in his personal life, but also just on the floor. The man can't stay on the floor. So
he hasn't been playing a full season, and
right. So he averages 27 and 10 basically, but he can't play more than 30 games a year.
Yeah.
So there were some rumors of maybe him being floated out for the number 3 pick. I think they offered Charlotte him for the number 2 pick, and both been rebuked there on those potential things. But Zion could certainly be a guy on the move. They don't necessarily have to move on from Lillard if they draft one of those 2 players there at number 2 or number 3 rather. But they have a lot of guard depth, obviously, right? Like they have Anthony Simons, who proved if they need him to be the guy last year, he showed out and was putting up 25 plus points a night and really had no worries. And Dame obviously is Dame, but again, this is a positionless basketball league now in the NBA where you can have a bunch of ball handlers on the floor. You looked at what Orlando did last year. Markelle Fultz, Cole Anthony, Jalen Suggs, like all those guys were playing at high levels in the rotation that they had them all playing on. So you can use 3 guards if you need to.
Yeah. And on that note, so the Hornets, I mean, what they have the number 2 pick here, and you got LaMelo, obviously, who dealt with an injury last year, but the name Scoot Henderson is the favorite right now. Yesterday during the show with Howard Bender, we were looking at NBA draft odds, and live on the show, the odds are moving. And right now on BetMGM, Scoot Henderson's minus 275 to be the 2nd overall pick. So, it's a spot where you think, all right, the Hornets are locked in there, or they're, like you said, they're looking to trade it maybe for a Zion or another team for, a star to place next to LaMelo, and they're looking to ship out that number 2 pick to a team that really wants Scoot Henderson because he's viewed as, the clear number 2 guy. It's between him and Brandon Miller, but I think over the past couple of weeks, people have really, come around on Scoot. For a while, it was basically Wemby and then Scoot, but I think, Brandon Miller's strong season for Alabama really put him into that conversation to be the number 2 pick, but I think Scoot Henderson is now rightfully the favorite again. So whether it's Charlotte standing pat and grabbing Scoot Henderson to pair with LaMelo Ball, or if they trade the pick out, it looks like Scoot's going to be the number 2 pick now.
Yeah, listen, I actually think that's fine. Like, you look at Scoot Henderson and where his game is at, and you look at what LaMelo Ball does. I hate being repetitive here, but in the positionless basketball NBA, LaMelo Ball is their leading scorer. He's their leading 3-point shooter. He also is their leading assist man. He's like 2nd in rebounds. He just is all over the floor for them. You can pair him up with a guy like Henderson who facilitates the offense a little bit more and still get the ball in LaMelo Ball's hands enough for him to be the best player on the team there. We've seen teams where guys have had high assist totals together, so it's not as if they both can't distribute the basketball and make that offense flow a little bit better. Maybe that helps maybe having a guy like Henderson that can run an offense and spread the floor a little bit more and make teams think about it and allow LaMelo to move off the ball could be interesting. But they also have Terry Rozier there. They have other guards in that offense, so they'll have to figure out what's going to go on. They'll probably have Bridges back this year. I mean, nothing official yet on that front, but there's a lot of indications that probably return to Charlotte now that his legal troubles are sort of behind him and he's got the suspension to deal with, but probably comes back in that offense here. Charlotte's an interesting team, kind of given the way they've been comprised. But like you said, the NBA draft, they could draft Scoot Henderson, and 30 minutes later, we could find out he gets traded, right? These drafts, these trades in the NBA, the team will make the pick and trade the player after the fact. And they're swapping hats during 9 interviews during draft night, just the way it happens.
That's why, a week or two ago when I was thinking about, looking at draft odds on FanDuel, and Scoot Henderson was last week, even last Thursday, he was plus 125 to be the number 2 pick. And I locked that in because, I don't see that much of a gap. And now it's clear that he's the favorite there at number 2 over Brandon Miller. But in my mind, I was thinking that the Hornets, whether they're going to keep Henderson or not, make the pick of Henderson, as the better asset probably to a team that's looking for a lead guard, a young lead guard, if they're going to make the trade or keep him around. And LaMelo's, now that we've seen what Lonzo Ball's injuries issues are, LaMelo has now had an injury or two, and it's a little probably in the back of the Hornets' minds that if this guy is just another injury-prone guard, do we try to trade him and keep Scoot Henderson around? So
yeah, such an unlucky injuries for Ball too. Like he stepped on the foot of the fan last year.
Yeah,
sitting on the sideline, which a rant for another day. But nobody needs to be sitting that courtside, right? Like you can sit courtside, but there should be a barrier between fans and the playing surface, right? Like what are we doing that they're that close that you can't have some sort of guard barrier table, like the announcers table, just all around it, right? And if they want to make a play into it, that's fine. But LaMelo Ball shouldn't be stepping on the feet of fans because he stepped 3 feet off the playing surface, right? To me, that the NBA is always wild to me when it comes to that whole how close they can actually get to the playing surface there.
Yeah, when a guy has to jump for a ball that's going out of bounds and he has to worry about where he's going to land, on a person that's holding, 2 beers in their hand and might get drenched with beer. That's an issue.
It doesn't make any sense that they have them sitting that courtside should be courtside, but far enough away from the playing surface that you're not literally impacting the players there. And that was such a wild injury. Just a natural basketball play. He steps on the foot of a fan, rolls his ankle, is out 2 months. Right? What are we doing?
By the way, if you want some more NBA draft talk, up on the website right now, up on Fantasy Alarm, we have a Victor Wembanyama draft profile that I wrote and some betting odds. If you want to lay 50,000 minus 50,000 on FanDuel for him to be the number 1 pick, you can go do that. But yes, so check that article out. And this week we'll have some more articles on draft odds and some breakdowns of some of the top prospects. So stay tuned to Fantasy Alarm for that. And later this week, we'll be definitely talking some draft odds movement, for Thursday's first round. With that, let's get to our daily dinger home run calls of the day.
You can put it on the board. Yes.
Now that's a dinger.
Nice little intro. Love it.
That's a new little intro.
That's a new little intro our producer Adam Bernard put together. Awesome stuff. John, what do you got for a home run call tonight?
Yeah, I'm going a little chalky here. But again, I got a little bit of a streak going, back-to-back show appearances with the home run call being read at Rafael Devers a couple of weeks ago when Howard Bender filled in for you. And then last time out, hit the home run call there as well. We're going Jorge Soler tonight, plus 310, going up against Yusei Kikuchi. Kikuchi on the year, just ridiculous power numbers allowed to right-handed bats. A 515 slug, a 363 WOBA. He's got an over 20% home run to fly ball rate. And then you look at Jorge Soler's numbers against left-handed pitching on the year. 526 ISO, a 528 WOBA against them, an 860 slugging percentage against left-handed pitching. So a lot just leading into this play here. Jorge Soler going yard against Yusei Kikuchi plus 310.
Sweet. Love it. Yesterday's home run call I had was a guy from the Rockies that got put on the paternity list right before I gave it out. So hopefully, I think this one will come through because I know Nick Castellanos is back in the Phillies lineup. He was out with an illness last couple games, but he's hitting third in the Phillies lineup tonight. Spencer Strider has allowed 12 home runs this season over his 14 starts, and he's allowed 5 homers over his past 2 starts alone. 7 of his 12 homers allowed have come on the road, and 8 of 12 against right-handed pitching this year. And Castellanos hitting .345 at home this season, with 6 of his 8 home runs coming against right-handed pitching himself. So I think Castellanos gets back in the swing of things in his first game back with the Phillies.
I need that for my fantasy team. He's been. I don't have any other outfielders because Bryce Harper is a DH utility only in my league, so it's kind of just eating that spot. And I don't have a backup outfielder yet. Spencer Steer starting in the outfield last night gives me hope. Eventually, he'll grab that outfield eligibility, and I can start having a little bit more roster flexibility there. But getting Castellanos back in my team here is pretty clutch. We're up to third now, Servo, in the Roto League, so we're climbing the ranks.
There we go. Yeah, represent Fantasy Alarm there. Love it. By the way, tune into John and James Grande right after us here at 5 o'clock Eastern. They're going live for the Quick Pitch MLB DFS live show, as they do every day at 5 Eastern here on Bettor Sports Network. They'll be helping you guys build some DFS lineups. So maybe Castellanos cracks the outfielders there for a top DFS play. But yeah, some great, more in-depth baseball talk between those guys as they do every day. So stay tuned for that. But John, appreciate you joining me here as you do on Tuesdays. And if I don't talk to you before, but enjoy your upcoming honeymoon. Yeah,
this will be my last Bettor Sports betting show for like 2.5 weeks. So
we're going to try to hold it down for you.
Yeah. Appreciate it. You'll have plenty of great guests, obviously, filling in for me while I am gone. But yeah, I enjoyed it. And we'll definitely be talking, Servo. So I'll see you then.
We'll let you know if Zion Williamson ends up on the Celtics in your absence. Well, appreciate everyone tuning in, and good luck with all your bets. And we'll see you tomorrow again at 4 o'clock Eastern. Thanks, guys.
Bettor Sports Betting on the Bettor Sports Network.